against you by women who said that you had conducted yourself inappropriately towards them. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
When you resigned in August of 2013, you gave a press conference, is that correct?
I think so, yes, sir.
And you said in the press conference, you commented about these allegations, these complaints against you, correct?
I think so, yes, sir.
You said, for example, words to the effect, when a lynch mob mentality exists, rumors become allegations, allegations become facts, and facts become evidence. Did you say that at the
Yes,
press
sir.
conference? And then you also said at the press conference, for my part in causing all of this, I offer a deep apology, certainly to the citizens of San Diego. Did you say that, sir?
Yes, sir.
And at this press conference, did you also say, to all the women I offended, I had no intention to be offensive? Did you say that, sir?
Yes, sir.
And at the press conference, did you say, if given due process, I would be vindicated? Did you say that, sir?
Yes, sir.
And did you also say at this press conference, not one allegation has ever been independently verified or proven in court? Did you say that, sir?
Yes, sir.
And did you also say at this press conference, I have never sexually harassed anyone? Did you say that, sir?
Yes, sir.
And at the time that you made this statement, you understood what the term sexual harassment meant. Is that correct, sir?
Yes, sir.
And at the time you made the statement, you knew what the city's policy was on sexual harassment. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So when you made that statement about you never sexually harassing anyone, it was based on your understanding of what the city's policy was on sexual harassment at that time. Is that correct?
Yes, and the law too.
Okay. And at that time, you understood legal phrases, legal terminologies, and that sort of thing because of your background in Congress, correct?
Yes, sir.
In Congress, you helped draft laws, correct?
Yes, sir.
You understood how to read and interpret laws, correct?
In general, yes, sir.
And as a professor at San Diego State, you were a professor of history.
Yes, sir.
And as a professor at San Diego State in history, you understood how to read and analyze words and phrases that could be complex, correct?
Yes, sir.
So it wasn't complex for you to read and understand what the city's policy was on sexual harassment, correct?
I would say that, yes, sir.
So when you made this statement at the press conference that you never sexually harassed anyone, you reviewed in your mind all of the contacts that you had with women during the time that you were the mayor, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you concluded in your mind that you did not sexually harass anyone, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, recently, I believe in January of 2016, you gave an interview with the Voice of San Diego, correct?
I don't remember the date, but recently, yes, sir.
And you stated in your interview the same thing. You never sexually harassed anyone, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you also stated in this interview that most of the things that the women complained about concerning you were made up and fantasies. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And do you believe that to be the case with respect to Ms. McKenzie?
I don't know, sir.
I want to show you Exhibit 16. I believe it's been admitted. Your Honor, may I have it published?
Yes.
May I approach the witness?
Yes, you may.
Mr. Filner, I show you what has been previously marked and admitted as Exhibit 16 in this case, and it is a city memorandum dated July 1st, 2012 to all city employees. Have you ever seen this before?
I think so, sir. But it was obviously issued before I was mayor, but I think it was still the current situation when I became mayor.
Okay, when you saw this, did you understand that it was sent to all employees?
Yes, sir.
And you were given a copy of this when you were mayor, correct?
I think so, yes, sir.
And in fact, you had access to the city's files, and at any time you could have pulled it out and read it at any time, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And is it correct that you, even though you were the mayor, elected mayor for San Diego, you were an employee of the city of San Diego, correct?
Yes, sir.
So this memo would apply to you.
Yes, sir.
I want to refer you to page 2 of the memo. If we can go to page 2, and in the second to the last paragraph, I want to highlight where it says the first sentence. Let's highlight the first sentence if we could. All right. Now, do you see that, sir?
I do.
It makes reference to, it actually defines what sexual harassment is. And
Objection, Your Honor, this states harassment included.
I'll rephrase. It defines what harassment is.
The question is withdrawn.
Yes, the question is withdrawn, Your Honor.
Thank you.
It defines what harassment is, correct?
I think it does not mention certain things. I'm not sure this is correct.
Well, you understood when you read this that harassment included any unwelcome, unsolicited, and unwanted behavior which may offend. Did you understand that when you read that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And it says at the end of it, because of a person's protected class. Do you see that, sir?
I do.
And did you understand in 2012 that the term protected class included women,
Yes, sir.
included sex,
Yes,
based
sir.
upon a person's sex? And you understood that because of the training and the education that you had received up to that point?
Yes,
correct?
sir.
It wasn't difficult for you to understand that, was
No,
Is
sir.
that correct? Okay. Let's go to page 4 of the memo. And in this particular section, let's go to page 3 first. You can see that this section has to do with sexual harassment. You see that, sir?
Hold on.
We're in the sexual harassment section of the
Yes, I see.
memo. So let's turn to page 4 of the memo. And here it gives other examples of sexual harassment. And I want to highlight 3 bullet points. The first, the third, and the fourth. The first bullet point makes reference to leering. You see that, sir?
I see it, sir.
You understand what leering is, correct?
I'm not sure I would.
Would you agree that leering means to look at a woman in a staring fashion as if you were mentally trying to sexually undress the woman or something of that nature?
I'll take that as definition, yes, sir.
Okay. And the third bullet makes reference to unwelcome touching, hugging, and massaging. You see that, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then the third is blocking or cornering an individual. You read that, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, according to these examples that are given in this policy, this memorandum, if you hugged a female city employee, it can be considered sexual harassment under this example because the word hugging is used. Correct?
Objection, argument.
Rule, man.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
Madam Court Reporter, could you repeat the question?
I'll do it. According to these examples that are given in this policy, this memorandum, if you hug a female city employee, it can be considered sexual harassment under this example because of the word hugging is used, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And touching, according to these examples, touching a woman in a sexual way without her consent would be a violation of this policy, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, the position that you held as mayor came with it certain responsibilities, correct?
Yes, sir.
You were considered to be the head of the city of San Diego in some sense.
Yes, sir.
Right?
Yes, sir.
You were the top man,
Yes, sir.
and in conjunction with, or in connection with your duties and responsibilities, you needed help, right?
Yes, sir.
You had staff.
Yes, sir.
You hired people to help you,
I did.
correct? And many of these people that you hired as staff were with you when you made decisions, when they assisted you, when you gave speeches, and that sort of thing, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. So would it be correct that you hired staff to assist you in communications?
Yes, sir.
One of those persons was Irene McCormick, who was the director of communications, correct?
Yes, sir.
You hired her, and you hired her sometime in December when you were first elected, correct?
Yeah, it would be December, January. Yes, sir.
All right. And she was a woman, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. She began working for you, and then later on in January of 2013, you hired an executive assistant, correct?
Yes, sir.
An executive assistant by the name of Benelia Santos Hunter. Is that correct?
I'm not sure when we hired her, sir, because there was someone in that job previously to that.
Yes, but she began working for you at the beginning of the year.
I'm not sure when, but it was January, February, probably.
Okay, all right. Now, while you were the mayor, you had interactions with your female staff, correct?
Yes, sir.
You had interactions with Ms. McCormick, correct?
Yes, sir.
And during one of these interactions, you put her in a headlock, correct?
No, sir.
Do you understand what a headlock is?
No, sir.
Do you understand what a chokehold is?
Not really, sir.
Okay. So, have you ever seen someone use their arm to put around somebody's neck from behind? Have you ever seen that occur?
I don't think so, sir.
Have you ever seen somebody come up from the side of a person and put their arm around the person's neck in a holding position?
I can't recall, sir.
Okay, so let me ask you, sir. Have you ever, while you were mayor, have you ever put your arm around someone from behind, around the person's neck in a holding position?
I don't recall ever doing that, sir.
And have you ever, while you were mayor, put your arm around somebody's neck from the side in a, what can be referred to as a headlock position? Ever done that, sir?
I can't recall that, sir.
Did you ever do that to Ms. McCormick?
Same objections as earlier, Your Honor, 352, 1102, MIL, 3, relevant, lack of foundation.
Ladies and
1101,
gentlemen,
I'm sorry.
what?
I misspoke, exceeds 1101.
Ladies and gentlemen, the objection's overruled with the instruction that I earlier gave you. That's referred to as a limiting instruction, okay? You may receive the evidence only for the purposes that I described. Overruled on that basis.
Your answer, sir.
Again, the question, please.
Did you ever put a headlock or chokehold arm around Irene McCormick, around her neck with your arm?
I can't recall that, sir.
And did you ever put her in this position with your arm and make statements to her of a sexual nature?
No, sir.
Did you ever say, for example, to her that she was beautiful when you put your arm around her neck?
I don't recall ever doing that, sir.
Did you ever say to Miss McCormick, when you put your arm around her neck, words to the effect, wouldn't it be great if we consummated the marriage?
No, sir.
And if you had said these things, that would be contrary to the city's policy in that memorandum.
As I understand it, yes, sir.
And if you did these things, if you put your arm around Irene McCormick in any sort of fashion, that would be contrary to the policies of the city, correct?
If it was unwelcome, yes, sir.
And especially if it was in the workplace, correct?
Yes, sir.
While you were mayor, did you ever put your executive assistant, Santos Hunter, in a headlock or chokehold position?
No, sir.
Same objection as earlier.
Same ruling, ladies and gentlemen. Remember the limiting instruction that I read to you, okay? So ruled on that basis.
Did you ever approach her in the city's conference room and forcefully grab her head and put her in a headlock? Did you ever do that, sir?
I just have an ongoing objection to this line, Your Honor.
No, I think you need to make the record.
Okay, I'll renew my objection.
The
No.
objection- Hold on, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Mr. Felner. The objection's overruled with the same limitation that I previously described, okay? Just so it's clear, ladies and gentlemen, I'm gonna give you the instruction again. You're gonna hear and are hearing testimony that Mr. Felner allegedly sexually harassed women other than the plaintiff, Ms. McKenzie. I'm admitting this evidence for a limited purpose. It may only be used to decide two specific issues. First, you may consider the conduct as evidence as it relates to Mr. Filner's intent, plan, absence of mistake, or absence of accident with respect to his alleged conduct with Ms. McKenzie. Second, you may consider the evidence when you decide whether the city, through its managers, was aware of the alleged conduct involving other women and whether the city failed to take reasonable steps to prevent the alleged sexual harassment of the plaintiff, Ms. McKenzie, by Mr. Filner. Except as I've specified in this instruction, you must not consider the alleged conduct involving other women as evidence in deciding any other issue. Okay? All right. Proceed.
I don't recall if I got an answer, Your Honor.
You didn't, and I suspect that the witness needs the question back again.
Thank you, sir.
May we have Madam Court Reporter, may we have you read back the question?
Question, did you ever approach her in the city's conference room and forcefully grab her head and put her in a headlock? Did you ever do that, sir?
No, sir.
While you were mayor, did you ever lock Miss Santos Hunter in your office kitchen and then ask her to make love to you?
Same five objections.
Okay. Same ruling, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. Go ahead.
No, sir.
In fact, you were convicted of a felony. Were you not, sir?
I was, sir.
You were convicted of a felony for false imprisonment, weren't you?
Yes, sir. Under the advice of my counsel, I pled guilty to that.
And that...
Hold on. I'm
Yes,
sorry to
yes, sir.
interrupt, but I'm going to give you another limiting instruction, ladies and gentlemen. You have now heard evidence that Mr. Filner has been convicted of a felony. You have been told about this conviction only to help you decide whether you should believe his testimony. You must not consider the conviction for any other purpose.
And may I proceed, Your Honor?
You may.
And you were convicted of a felony for the incident involving Santos Hunter, correct?
No, sir.
You were convicted of false imprisonment, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And while you were mayor, you tried to hug and kiss Santos Hunter several times, correct?
No,
Same
sir.
five objections,
Same ruling, same instruction to the jury.
In fact, at one time, you tried to touch Miss Santos Hunter's breast, correct?
No, sir.
Your Honor. Same five objections.
In this instance, the objection came too late and it is overruled on that basis.
When you tried to touch her breast, this is Miss Santos Hunter's, you said words to the effect, "Those look good, I want to suck them. Please let me suck them."
Same
Did you
five
say that,
objections. Same five objections, Your Honor.
All right, the objection is overruled with the limiting instruction that I've now read to you twice. Okay, folks? Have that in mind. Proceed, you may answer.
That's not true, sir.
All right. And while you were the mayor, you grabbed Miss Santo Hunter's hand and tried to put her hand on your penis. Is that correct, sir?
Same 5 objections, Your Honor.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the objection's overruled based on the limiting instruction that I have read to you twice now.
That never happened, sir.
Now, when you were mayor, you said to Ms. McCormick, your director of communications, words to the effect, wouldn't it be great if you took off your panties and worked without them? Did you say that, sir?
No,
Same 5
sir.
objections, Your Honor.
Okay, the objection's overruled, the answer stands, and the jury is instructed to bear well in mind the limiting instruction I have read twice.
And while you were mayor, you said to Ms. McCormick, words to the effect, when are you going to get naked?
Same
Come on,
objection,
give
Your
me a kiss, correct?
The same 5 objections, Your Honor.
Same ruling, same instruction to the jury. You may answer.
That never happened, sir.
And when you said this to Ms. McCormick, you were in her office, correct?
No, sir.
And while you were in Ms. McCormick's office, isn't it true that she said words to the effect, get out? Get out of my office.
Same 5 objections, Your Honor, becoming a feature of the trial.
Overruled, you may answer.
That never happened, sir.
And did you ever tell Ms. McCormick, when she asked you to leave her office, words to the effect, you can't kick me out, I am the mayor, I can go anywhere I want, anytime I want. Did you say that to her, sir?
Same 5 objections, Your Honor.
Overruled, you may answer.
That never happened, sir.
Now, at the time that you were mayor, Vincent Hall was your chief of staff, is that correct?
Yes, sir. Most of the time that I was mayor.
And would Mr. Hall be kind of like your point man? If somebody wanted to talk to you, they go through him?
In general, yes.
And who was above Vincent Hall, if anyone?
Just myself.
Okay. So did Vincent Hall ever tell you while you were the mayor that people were complaining about your behavior toward women? Did he ever make any of those known to you?
I don't recall that he did, sir.
Did he ever convey a message to you from Donna Fry about your behavior toward women?
No, sir.
Did you ever tell Donna Fry in response to a message that she conveyed to you through Vincent Hall about you stopping treating women inappropriately? Words to the effect, quote, I got your message, I get it. Did you ever say that to Miss Fry?
I don't remember that, sir.
Let's go to April 21st, 2013.
I'm sorry.
April 21st,
Yes, sir.
2013. You were the mayor at that time, correct?
Yes, sir.
And do you recall going to a Claremont Day event at Mission Bay Park?
I remember it was, again, very vague because I went to thousands of events such as that.
But you, because of this case and because of things that you reviewed and so forth, you now independently remember that date. Is that
Yes,
correct?
sir.
Okay. And you remember that that day was a day where children were present? Correct?
I don't know, probably.
And you interacted with the public as the mayor, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you were there in your capacity as the mayor. Is that right?
Objection calls for reading through the
Overruled, you may answer.
Yes, sir.
And is it correct that as the mayor, you hold the public's trust?
Of course, sir. Yes.
You understood that on the day of your attendance at the Claremont Day event and throughout your 8 or 9 month term as the mayor, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, let's talk about that day. Did you ever, on that day, did you ever put your arm around my client, Miss McKenzie, in any fashion whatsoever?
I don't recall ever doing that, sir.
Did you ever grab her wrist and pull her close to you when she introduced herself to you?
No, I don't remember the incident at all, sir.
did you ever tell her words to the effect, after asking if she could go to lunch on a business occasion, that this is not a date? I mean, excuse me, this is not, I want to clarify, this is a date. You were asking her out on a date. Did you ever say that to her?
I don't recall that at all, sir.
Did you ever go about your business as the mayor and meeting the citizens of San Diego, and from time to time ask some of the women out on dates?
It's possible, sir, but never an employee.
So you never asked Miss McCormick, Irene McCormick, out on a date?
No, sir.
In fact, you asked her to marry you, didn't you?
No, sir.
Did you ever ask Miss Santos Hunter on a date?
No, sir.
In fact, you asked her to have sex with you, correct?
No, sir.
State by ruling, Your Honor.
Did you, hold on.
Bear in mind the limiting instruction that I've read twice.
At the Claremont Day event, did you, after first encountering Miss McKenzie, did you follow her around the park?
I don't remember ever meeting her, sir.
Do you understand what the word stalking means, sir?
I do.
Okay. Did you ever stalk Miss McKenzie after your first encounter and later come up to her from behind?
Objection, argumentative.
Rule, you may answer.
I have never stalked anyone, sir.
Did you ever put your arm around Miss McKenzie from behind, your right arm around her neck? Did you ever do that, sir, to Miss McKenzie?
I don't recall that at all, sir.
Did you ever try and use your arm while it's around her neck to touch her breast?
I don't recall that, but I would never do such a thing, sir.
When you say you would never do such a thing, you would never put your arm around somebody's neck in a fashion that would be considered to be in violation of the city's policy, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you would never do the things that Miss McKenzie is saying that you did to her, correct?
Objection, vagueness to what thing, Your Honor.
Sustained on the ground.
You understand what Miss McKenzie's allegations are, correct?
Yes, sir.
You heard her testimony today, correct? Or you mean yesterday, correct?
Yes, sir.
And is it your testimony today that the things that she said that you did to her, you would typically or normally never do? Is that right?
Objection, overruled.
Rule, you may answer.
No, as I said, I don't recall the incident, but there are certain things I would never do.
Yeah, and the things that she said that you did to her, you're saying that you would never do.
Yes, sir.
Now, did you, while you were at the Mission Bay Park, did you say things to other people while you had Miss McKenzie in a arm lock? Words to the effect, "Isn't she great?"
Objection, Your Honor.
Did you ever say that?
Excuse me.
Round.
Ask the answer, he doesn't remember the incident.
Rule, you may answer.
As I said, I don't remember meeting Miss McKenzie at all.
And did you ever press your body up against Miss McKenzie while your right arm was around her neck and make contact with your body with her buttons? Did you ever do that, sir?
It's something I would never do, sir.
Okay. And did you ever stroke her arm with your left hand while talking to her co-workers while having your arm around her neck? Did you ever do that, sir?
As I said, I don't remember the occurrence at all.
Don't remember, that's something that you would never do to your employees?
No, sir. Yes, sir. I would not. I would never do that.
Okay. And would you consider the things that I just described to you to be wrong?
Well, I would consider them inappropriate. Yes, sir.
Violation of the city's policy?
I'm not sure about that, sir.
You would consider that to be sexual harassment, correct?
Objection calls for a legal conclusion, Your Honor.
Rule as phrased.
I'm not sure now exactly which act you're referring to, but most of them are not sexual harassment.
Okay. I want turn your attention to exhibit number 72. I believe it's in. May I approach you? Yes, indeed.
It's not in this one.
Okay, thank you. Let me see this. May I assist him, Your Honor? or should
Yes,
do
I
it
would ask that you do just that.
Yes, sir. Let's go to exhibit number 72. There you go. Have you ever seen this before, sir?
Yes, it was an update of the previous memo that came from Mayor Sanders that now had my name on it.
Yes, sir. It purports to be the same kind of memo dated July 10, 2013, to all city employees from Mayor Bob Filner, correct?
Yes, sir.
See that, sir?
Yes, sir.
In the last page, turn to the last page. It says, Mayor Bob Filner's signature on file.
Well, I'm not sure which is
The
last.
very
page.
last page, sir.
Yes, sir, I see it.
That means you signed this document, correct?
Yes, sir.
And normally, based upon your custom and practice, you normally sign things after you read and understand them, correct?
Of course.
You did that as a congressman, correct?
Of course, yes.
You did that when you were a history professor, when you graded papers, signed things, said
Yes,
you have
sir.
an A, you have a B. You wouldn't do that unless you understood why you were signing things, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so when you signed this, you read it.
Of course.
All right. And I want to turn to page 4. Oh, by the way, Your Honor, may we admit this into evidence?
Any objection to 72?
No.
72 is received.
Maybe publish it.
Indeed.
Let's bring up exhibit number 72. Now, exhibit number 72 goes through the same examples that are set forth in exhibit 16, the July 2012 memo. You see that, sir?
I do.
Except there's one additional example, J, that's not in the July 2012 memo. You see that, sir?
I do.
Can we highlight that? Mr. ID.
You want to go to page 4?
Page 4, yes, sir. And highlight item J on top there. Item J. This additional example makes reference to conversations or comments with subtle sexual undertone. You see that, sir?
I do.
And is it correct that this was added as an example, not something that is new and should be adhered to, but as another example that people thought of after complaints were made against you, correct?
No, sir.
Isn't it correct that this was added because people were complaining that you were approaching them and making comments of a sexual undertone nature, correct?
Objection, lack of foundation.
Overruled. You may answer.
No, sir.
So when you signed this memo in July of 2013, just before you resigned, you had no idea why this was added.
I was unaware that it was a new item. Yes, sir.
Okay. And is it correct that during your term as the mayor, you engaged in numerous conversations with citizens and with employees? I'll withdraw the question, I'll just rephrase it. Isn't it correct that during your term as mayor, you engaged in numerous conversations with city employees that had sexual undertones, and those employees were women, correct?
Your Honor, A is also 352 exceeds 1101, exceeds the court's MIL rule number 3, relevance, lack of foundation.
Objection's overruled. You may answer.
I'm sorry, sir.
The objection's overruled. You may
Okay.
answer.
I don't recall, sir, any such things.
And if you engaged in such conduct, that would be in violation of this policy, correct?
Yes, sir.
And making these kind of comments to city employees would include commenting about their body, correct?
Yes, sir.
Commenting about their whether they have a boyfriend, correct?
Probably. I'm not sure, sir.
Commenting about your sexual abilities, that sort of thing. That would be
Of course,
a
sir.
violation of this policy.
Yes, sir.
And it would be a violation of this policy if you were to say, I want to get really close to my city employees. That would have sexual undertones, wouldn't it?
Well, it depends on the context, sir. I'm not sure what you're
Well,
referring to.
if you intended to suggest that you want to get really close to your employees in a sexual fashion, meaning you wanted to touch them, that would be inappropriate.
Oh, yes, sir.
And isn't it correct that the city's policy doesn't really focus on the perpetrator, but it focuses on the victim, correct?
I guess so, sir, yes.
Well, do you know?
I mean, it's for everybody in the city with regard to their own actions and the rights of a victim in such a situation.
Well, it's how the victim perceives the conduct, correct?
Oh, yes.
So if the perpetrator is making inappropriate comments and they don't necessarily intend to harm that person, they're just making jokes, but the person's offended by it, that would be in violation of this policy, because that would be sexual harassment,
Your
correct?
Honor, calls for a legal conclusion.
No rule, you may.
I'm not sure, sir. I assume so, but I'm not an attorney.
Let's go to exhibit number 16. Did I take that away from you, sir?
Yeah, I don't have that one.
Let me get that for you. First, I will take this away. Let's go to exhibit number 16, if we could, on the screen. Go to page 4. Do you have that, sir?
Yes, sir.
And let's go to the second to the last paragraph. And let's highlight the first sentence and the last sentence. Now, do you recall reading these highlighted parts of this policy, sir?
I don't recall exactly, but I'm sure I read it.
Now, the first sentence talks about the harassment not depending upon whether it was intended to cause harm, but whether the impact of the act on the individual's work or employment is key. You see that, sir?
Yes.
Okay. Is that something that you understood to be the policy when you were the mayor?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And the last sentence says words to the effect that it doesn't matter that the harasser failed to recognize the behavior as harassing. You see that sentence, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, you indicated a little bit of uncertainty as to whether you understood what I was asking you. This is what I'm asking you. Is it correct that the focus of the city's policy on sexual harassment is on the victim and how the victim perceives the impact it would have on him or her, correct?
Ask and answer your Honor. Yes.
Rule, you may.
Well, in that paragraph, yes. I thought you were referring to the whole memo, which is instructions to every employee, whether they're the harasser or the victim.
Okay. So if you, for example, put a headlock or a chokehold on a female and you thought it was just in fun, but the female didn't think it was fun because they weren't consenting to this and they were shocked and humiliated, the fact that you didn't think it was wrong or you didn't think that they would be offended by it doesn't matter. The city's policy focuses on the victim. Is that correct?
Objection, argument, and
It was argument. It's the same.
Yes, sir.
You may refer.
Isn't it correct that if you put a chokehold on a female employee, but didn't intend to cause any sort of sexual harassment or harm, according to the city's policy, the important aspect of whether it's sexual harassment is how the victim perceives it, not how you perceive it, correct?
Yes, sir.
Overruled. The answer stands, the answer is yes.
Your Honor, I would request that this be an opportunity to before he responds, lodge objection.
Let's go to page 6 of this document. On the last part of this section 10 talks about reporting the violation. You see that, sir?
I do.
In your exhibit.
Yes, sir.
And it makes a statement here about an employee who feels the policy is being violated should bring the matter to the attention of, and then there's a bullet there for any supervisor. It's not necessary to follow the chain of command. So is it correct that if a city employee was complaining about your behavior, a woman was complaining about your behavior, that woman can go to any supervisor, not necessarily that woman's direct supervisor, to complain? Is that correct?
That's what it says, sir.
And that, according to your understanding of the policy, that should trickle up to you, right?
No, sir.
That should trickle up to somebody that has the responsibility to investigate.
Yes, but that is the human resources department, not myself.
Yes, sir. Now, did you have access to any of the complaints that would be made to Human Resources?
Only if they inform me, sir.
Okay, and but you had the right to find out about who was complaining about sexual harassment, correct?
No, sir.
If somebody was complaining about sexual harassment of a co-worker that had nothing to do with you, would you have a right to find out what was going on?
No, sir.
So you wouldn't, did you ever try, by the way?
No, sir.
So if somebody was committing sexual harassment in your office, and it wasn't you, wouldn't you want to know about that?
Yeah, but there are laws of privacy and confidentiality which could not be obviously violated.
Okay. Now, did you ever have a conversation with Mr. Hall and tell him that he shouldn't be telling you about complaints of sexual harassment because it would violate the woman's right of privacy? Did you ever say that to Mr. Hall?
No, sir.
Did you fire Mr. Hall?
I did, but not for that purpose.
Did you fire Mr. Hall because you believe he didn't tell you about all of these complaints against you?
No, I
Sexual
said.
harassment complaints.
No, sir. I fired him because he was incompetent.
Now, when you were the mayor of the city of San Diego, did you ever engage in abusive, loud, yelling type of behavior toward the city employees?
Objection, Your Honor, relevance, 352 exceeds 1101, exceeds court's MIL, voting number 3, lack of foundation. Relevance.
Response?
Yes, Your Honor, it goes to the fear that the city employees would feel if they reported sexual harassment by the mayor.
Objections overruled. You have the question in mind, Mr. Filner?
Yes, sir. I mean, some employees thought I would yell at them, yes.
You say some of them thought that. Did they ever tell you that it was inappropriate for you to conduct yourself that way?
It came up at staff meetings, I think, not necessarily an individual.
Did you yell at your employees?
Occasionally, both male and female.
Did you use the F word when you yelled at your employees?
I doubt it.
When you say you doubt it, do you know, yes or no, sir?
I don't recall ever doing that, sir.
And did you ever act in this abusive fashion by yelling and screaming at your employees, especially women?
Your Honor,
Did you ever do that, sir?
argument and objection.
Sustained on other grounds. You may rephrase, Mr. Corral.
Yes, Your Honor. Did you ever yell and scream at female employees in your office?
Yes, sir, as well as male employees, yes.
Did you yell and scream at female employees to the extent that they had to be driven home?
I don't know that, sir.
Did you yell and scream at female employees in your office that made them cry?
I never saw that, sir.
Did anybody ever tell you that they were afraid of you?
No, sir.
Did it ever come to your attention that the reason why people weren't complaining about you is because they thought they were going to be fired?
No, sir.
If a city employee came up to you and complained that you were treating them, female, treating them inappropriately, would you fire that person?
Your Honor, incomplete hypothetical.
Sustained on other grounds.
Did you ever fire an individual city employee other than Mr. Hall?
Objection relevant, Your Honor.
The rule, you may answer.
I think a couple, sir.
Okay. So you had the power to fire people, correct?
In my own office and my staff, yes, sir.
All right. Just one moment. Okay, Your Honor. Thank you. Mr. Felony.
Mr. Schaefer, do you wish to cross now or wait until your case in chief?
Subject to the court's ruling, I would only like to cross-examine regarding one area of inquiry. And as we call Mr. Filner in our case in chief, after all of the plaintiff's case has been presented.
That's fine, Mr. Schaefer. You may proceed.
May I approach the podium, Your Honor?
Indeed, you may.
Mr. Filner, you were asked numerous questions about your entire life before you were elected to office. And so I would like to delve into that area and ask you first, Mr. Corrales was asking you about your involvement in the freedom movement. Could you tell us what that was? And he mentioned in Jackson, Mississippi.
Yes, sir. Because my father was a close advisor and fundraiser for Dr. King, I met him in my house when I was 13 years old. And I pledged to him that I would lead a life of nonviolence for social change. And I think I conducted myself my whole life in that way. He called, in 1961, there was an event known as the Freedom Rides. And Dr. King and others called for volunteers to fill up the jails and protest the segregation of Southern laws. I was one of the first participants as a Freedom Rider. I was sentenced to 6 months in jail, but I served 2 because under state law, that's what you can serve with. You had to preserve your rights of appeal up until 60 days. So I served several months in jail, and that affected my life incredibly. Not only that because I had been gone through an incredible problem in jail. I was in the state penitentiary, and I think what we were subject to do would be called torture. But after the event was over, we actually got a Supreme Court ruling that the segregation that we were opposing was illegal. In fact, my case went to the Supreme Court. And I felt for the rest of my life that by involving yourself, but with nonviolent direct action, you can actually change what we are as a society.
And you met with Dr. King?
Yes, I met him when I was 13 years old.
And where was that?
It was in my house, sir.
And did Dr. King ever say anything to you about reading any types of materials?
Yeah, he recommended that I read everything that Gandhi wrote, and he was in the process, I think, of writing something, and he said, I hoped I read it when it came out, which I did.
And did that have an impact on you?
Oh, yes, sir. As I said, I pledged my life, I pledged to Dr. King a life of nonviolence, and I kept that rigorously. I mean, I never even hit my kids, which I probably should have done, but I kept a nonviolent posture throughout my whole life.
And you mentioned your kids. I know we've had testimony regarding the plaintiff's family briefly. How many children do you have?
I have 2 children, one of whom is adopted, and 2 grandchildren.
Did what you learned from Dr. King in any way lead to you running for public office?
Yes, sir. I had been involved in all parts of the civil rights movement. As it proceeded, I think there was only one major demonstration or protest that I missed.
Before we get to that, what you say all facets of the civil rights movement, what are you talking about?
The movement that took place in this country between, say, from the boycott of Montgomery buses, 1956, through the Freedom Rides in 1961, through the involvement for voting rights that the Selma March was aimed at in 1965. I participated in all of those, sir.
And before you pursued elective office, let's talk about your educational background. Mr. Corrales was asking you about your educational background. Did you indicate that you went to Cornell?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear, sir.
Did you go to Cornell?
Yes.
Could you tell us?
In 1959, I started at Cornell University. My intention was to be an engineer, in fact, a chemical engineer. And on the basis of some of the experiences I had, both in jail, which was after my sophomore year, and other kinds of things, I wanted a more humanistic education, so I transferred from the Department of College of Engineering to the College of Arts and Letters, received a degree in chemistry. I did some graduate work for a while at Yale University, and then got a master's degree in history at the University of Delaware, and then returned to Cornell University, where I got a PhD in the history of science, and I had changed my career objective to one of teaching rather than being an engineer. And my first and last job, I guess, was at San Diego State, where I taught for 22 years.
Why did you change your career path to history?
Well, it's the basis of certain experiences that I had. Interestingly enough, I think in jail, where I had one cellmate for a while who was extremely versed in philosophy and psychology and history and the humanities. And I just learned so much from him that I decided I needed to learn more about history and philosophy, and had to read more than just math, chem, and physics.
Now, Mr. Corrales brought up that you were a history professor at San Diego State. Could you tell us what types of history classes you taught and for how long?
Yes, sir. I was on the faculty for 22 years until I was elected to the Congress. And I taught my specialty, which was history of science. Since that was mainly European history, I also taught the required course that we had for undergraduates at San Diego State, the Western Civ course. I developed certain courses that had never been taught before, like American science development. And also, all of us on the faculty had to teach courses that were for the history majors, like one called the writing of history. So we all had to partake in these required courses. But mainly I taught Western civilization and history of science. And I received tenure and promotion after about 5 years at San Diego State.
Did you enjoy that type of work?
Oh, I loved it, sir. There's nothing like being on a college campus and having ideas and debating them and seeing how young people are reacting and try to influence them like I had been by Dr. King and others.
Did anything lead you to cease teaching history there at San Diego State?
Did anything?
Did you then pursue another, what was the next thing you did in your career?
Well, by now I had 2 children, and they were in elementary school, and I thought my job was to take a real interest in what they were doing and be involved in the school. So I got involved in the PTA, was elected as president of the PTA, and in that role...
You say PTA, some people may not know what that means. What is
Parent
that?
Teachers Association.
Okay.
And as a result of that position, I had weekly meetings with the principal of the school. And one day she told me that next year when the school was closed, and I sort of stopped her and I said, what do you mean the school's going to be closed? She said, well, that was decided several years ago. I said, why? We have a great school. Why do we want to close? I said, who decided that the school would be closed? She said, the school board. I said, what's the school board? And she explained to me that the policy of the school district was decided by the school board. They would meet every Tuesday at 2 o'clock. And I said, well, can I go down and talk to them? She said, sure, everybody's entitled to a few minutes of public discussion. And of course, Tuesday at 2 o'clock is, I think, a time designed to keep people away since they're working. But I happened to be teaching Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, so I was able to go. And I gave my statement at the appropriate time. And I could not believe the reaction. They were just arrogant and dismissive, said, how come I was there? This decision was made several years ago. I said, I'm just trying to be involved in my children's education. And they said, we know more about that than you did. And I said, oh, no, you don't. And I got very angry and started going back to the school board meetings every week. In fact, I had a better attendance record than most of them. But I found out that they would react the same way to anybody, not just me. And out of that experience, not only did we form a citywide group to protest the school's closings, which was successful. We stopped the closing, not only my elementary school, but others around the city. And people said, you ought to run for the school board.
And did you?
I was not anxious to, but I decided that certain issues had to be raised that I had learned about. And I think I was the first Democrat to beat an incumbent Republican for that office, and won by a very narrow margin, but was elected to the school board in 1979 and was president of that board in 1982.
When you say president, what is that?
That's an elected position of the 5 school board members as who would chair the meetings. And there were certain other powers that were reserved for the president, who would sign documents on behalf of the district, for example, represent the district at various events.
So your colleagues on the school board elected you to be president?
Yes, sir.
What was the next thing you did? Was it working for Congressman Jim Bates, or was there something in between? You said it was brought out and you worked for him.
Yeah, I received a very prestigious postdoctoral fellowship called the Congressional Fellowship in 1974, which was to give scholars and journalists a chance to work directly in Congress and get that practical kind of experience. And as I told the council there, I worked for Senator Hubert Humphrey and also for Congressman Don Fraser, both from Minnesota. And that also was a crucial, I think, learning experience. I saw what an elected official could do in one day. I mean, Hubert Humphrey was just a cyclone of activity. And he got so much done and did so much for the nation that I said, you know, this elected stuff, which I was not too interested in, might be something to get involved in. That's one of the reasons I did run for the school board when I returned to San Diego. And From that experience,
I have the timeline wrong. You
I'm sorry.
were working for Senate Company, then you ran for school board.
Right, I returned to San Diego in 1975, ran for school board in 1979, ran for the city council 3 times, 1983, 1987, 1991, and won the last 2.
If I got this right, after the school board, after serving on the school board, you ran for city council,
I did. It was the only election I lost.
and the first time you ran, you lost.
For city council, yes.
And then you ran 2 other times for city council, and you won.
I won. I was elected twice to the San Diego City Council.
Approximately what period of time was that you served on the San Diego City Council?
From 1987 to 1992, I was also elected by my colleagues, the deputy mayor of San Diego. That was the person on the council who served as chair if the mayor was not available. Again, I was elected by my colleagues.
And what were your, in a nutshell, responsibilities as a deputy mayor?
Well, you chaired the city council when the mayor was not available. The mayor at that time was called a weak mayor, in that the city manager of San Diego had most of the executive power, and the mayor was just one member of the city council, but the chair. And when, in that case, Mayor O'Connor was not available, I would chair the meetings and also represent her at events that she did not want to go to or couldn't go to.
As a city council member back then, did you have a particular passion as a legislator?
Well, my passion always has been to empower people, especially those who did not have power, and get things done on behalf of neighborhoods that had been neglected in San Diego. I represented the southern part of the city, the older part, the part that was more heavily people of color, and I was elected because I made a very strong stance on making sure that that my neighborhoods would be as respected and treated as well as the others, which I think I accomplished quite a bit in doing that.
After serving 2 terms as a council member, I think you mentioned you actually were elected to Congress, is that correct?
Yeah, I was elected to Congress in the middle of my second term on the City Council in 1992 and was reelected 9 more times.
And what led you to run for Congress?
The same passion for public good, I think, that first Dr. King and then Bobby Kennedy and then Senator Humphrey had instilled in me. That is to be a really people's representative, whether it was on the school board or the city council or in Congress or later as mayor, and that is to work on behalf of people and their needs, whether that's for in the economic sphere, in the medical sphere, in the environmental, equal rights for everyone, including women. I was very active in that struggle, whether it was for the environment or for women's rights or for gay rights. Whatever group was discriminated against is where you would find me very active.
And is there something in particular that you are most proud of during your tenure as a congressman?
I had the incredible fortune of being elected by my colleagues in Congress as chairman of the Veterans Committee in the United States Congress, where I served from 2007 through 2011. The chair of a committee in Congress has a lot more influence, power, than staff. And I became really the most, I have to say it, the most recognized and the most aggressive and the most effective advocate for veterans in the United States. I was not a veteran myself, but I learned what the issues were. I went all around the country. I spoke at various conventions. I wrote what is called the GI Bill for the 21st century, and that is for the returning veterans from Iraq and Afghanistan. I wanted them to have the same benefits that my father had had when he returned from World War II. The GI Bill really made the middle class in this country. The GI Bill allowed people to go to college. My father, for the first time, was able to go to college. It enabled veterans to buy a house with very little money down. So we had the first house in my family's history. And I wanted to do that for the returning veterans from Iraq and Afghanistan. And so I wrote that bill, which I think there's 10 or 12 million veterans now in college because of that legislation. I was very proud of that. I more than doubled the budget that was given for Veterans Affairs from, and when I say double, it's not from $1 or $2, it's from like $25 billion to $50 billion, because the services were not serving our veterans. I played an important role in getting Agent Orange recognized as an important cause of disability, of PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, as a real disease and a real injury that had to be treated. And I think, interestingly enough, with respect to this particular trial, I also wrote a Bill of Rights for women veterans in this country. That is, we have had, as you know, for the first time, women serving in combat activities. So for the first time, we'd have returning women who were going to use the VA system, the Veterans Administration Hospital system. And it was just not set up for women. And whether you're talking about number of the kind of doctors, the gender of the doctors, whether you're talking about even changing rooms or other necessary services, were just not provided in the VA. And I wrote that Bill of Rights that would guarantee women veterans the right to all those services.
Mr. Corrales brought up the sad circumstances which led to your resignation after you were elected mayor of San Diego. And he brought up the fact that you were later convicted. If you could tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury, when you, on advice of counsel, pled to a felony, how did you feel at the time?
The whole experience was incredibly devastating. I did not think I was guilty of many of the accusations, but it became because of the weight of the extent, and I think the actions of people who opposed what I was trying to do as mayor. It all came together, made it impossible for me to govern. It was, very tragic thing in my experience, since I was trying to really change this city.
But I'm asking about how you felt about pleading to that charge.
Oh, that was the saddest day in my life, sir.
Why is that?
Because I had pledged to Dr. King nonviolence, and here I was convicted of a violent act, which I did not do, but I pled guilty to it. And it just seemed, it was extremely heartbreaking and extremely emotional. And I thought I had let a lot of people down in that. And I will tell you that the so-called felony.
Well, I don't want to get into this specifics.
Okay, sir.
I just wanted to know.
I was devastated, and I have been in the last 2 to 3 years trying to understand what happened. I've gone through continued very intense therapy to see what may have caused what was my responsibility in all this, and try to understand exactly what happened. And I think I've come out a better and stronger person, even though I don't have the mayor's job. If my son had written a letter to the judge that said, Sandy, okay, I'm sorry.
Get into the specifics of all of that, about your son. while this is fresh in the juror's mind, we had Mr. Hadley testify in this case. Do you recall his testimony?
I recall the testimony, yes.
And what is your recollection in terms of the circumstances in which you no longer work for the mayor's office?
I mean, Mr. Hadley, who testified that we did not interview him, received the job because it was Ms. Fry's prime desire to have him with her in the mayor's office, and I wanted Ms. Fry to work as director of open government. So he really came to the office as her assistant. In fact, all he did was really drive her back and forth to work. He wasn't involved in hardly any of the actions of the office. In fact, when I walked into his office once and saw stacks and stacks of constituent mail, which under my policy was supposed to be answered within 48 hours. He hadn't answered mail in 5 or 6 months. And I think that's why Ms. Fry eventually resigned, because I had fired her. I was going to fire her assistant.
Did you ever instruct Mr. Hall that Mr. Hadley had to be let go?
Yes, sir.
No additional questions this time.
Thank you. Is there any redirect? Yes, Your Honor.
Very briefly. No more than 3 minutes.
Very well.
So, Mr. Filner, you're 5'10", right?
I'm sorry?
5 feet 10 inches?
Yes, sir.
You said you made a pledge to Dr. Martin Luther King that you would you pledge your life of nonviolence, words to that effect. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Would you consider sexual harassment of a woman to be nonviolent?
No, sir.
And would you consider putting a woman in a headlock or a chokehold, as I described to you, to be nonviolent?
It's not, but I would never do that, sir.
And would you consider abusing a woman in any fashion to be nonviolent?
I'm not sure what you mean by abusing, but if it's physical, of course, it would be. But verbal, I don't think rises to that occasion.
Okay. And are you suggesting that being having an abusive type of managerial style by yelling and screaming at employees to be nonviolent?
Arguing.
Ooh, man.
I mean, what you referred to my style was not
Yes
my
or no,
style.
sir? Yes, sir.
Well, you said my abusive style. I didn't have an abusive style. I had periods of time when I was yelling at people.
You misunderstood the question. Would you consider a managerial style, not necessarily you, but a managerial style of yelling and screaming at employees to be nonviolent?
Probably not, sir.
All right. Now, are you when you gave your answers to questions concerning the pledge that you made to Dr. Martin Luther King in response to Mr. Schaefer's questions to you, were you trying to suggest to the jury that you're a nonviolent person and therefore you couldn't do what Ms. McKenzie said you did?
I was just answering the question, sir, and reflecting on my life.
Yes or no? Were you suggesting that?
I'm suggesting that I was nonviolent my whole life.
Were you suggesting what I just told you to the jury, that you couldn't have done what you did to Ms. McKenzie because you had made a pledge to Dr. Martin Luther King of nonviolence?
Well,
Is that what you're trying to suggest to the jury?
No, sir, there was no cause or effect there.
Were you suggesting that to the jury, sir?
I had not intended to one way or the other.
Now, this, you said you wrote a Bill of Rights for women. This was in March 30th, 2011. Is that correct, sir? You wrote that?
Yeah, I wrote it. It was not adopted by the Congress, but it was basically put into effect by the Veterans Administration.
Okay. Again, were Did you mention that today in order to suggest to the jury that you treat women appropriately? You trying to suggest that to them?
I think so, yes, sir.
All right. So, is it correct that you said in your draft or proposed Bill of Rights for Women, above all, the principles make clear that VA must always treat women veterans as they should treat any veteran, with sensitivity to their unique concerns and the dignity that their service to this country demands. Did you write that, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that would not be inconsistent, that would not be consistent with a person who sexually harasses a woman, correct?
Objection, Your Honor. Argument.
Rule, you may answer.
No, it would not be consistent.
All right.
Those are all the questions I have. Thank you.
Anything further?
Just one question. How old are you, Mr. Filner?
I'm 73 years old, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, time for the mid-morning recess. Ladies and gentlemen, please remember the admonitions. I'm sure you have them on mind, but just in case, please don't form or express any opinions about the case. No independent research of any sort, and